On November 13th, 1967, the Indiana Pacers of the American Basketball Association were losing to the Dallas Chaparrals 118 to 116 with just 1 second left on the clock. Indiana inbounded the ball to Jerry Harkness, who was 92 feet away from the basket. With no time to do anything else, Harkness threw the ball in the air, hit it off the backboard, and scored. Fans went crazy, but for all the wrong reasons. You see, 1967 was the first year the three-point shot was introduced in the ABL, and the players and fans weren't used to it. A lot of fans thought that Harkness tied the game and forced overtime, but in fact he was 68 feet behind the brand new three-point line. His shot ended up winning the game for the Pacers 119 to 118. Nowadays, the three-point shot is a bigger part of the game than ever before, with players like Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson hitting them like it's nothing. Even the big men in the league have slowly began to adjust to it, helping to slowly evolve the game of basketball as we know it. But the reality of the situation is that basketball was played for a long time without the three-point shot. The three-point line was first thought about in the 1930s. By the end of the 1960s, the three-point line was being used in the American Basketball League, the Eastern Professional Basketball League, and the American Basketball Association. It was not until the late 1970s that the NBA gave in and decided to use it as well. The NBA did not adopt the three-point line until 1979, putting it between 22 and 23 feet and 9 inches from the basket depending on where a player stood along its arc. This addition to the game added a new level of excitement and suspense. Many games throughout NBA history have been decided by this shot, which makes it crazy to think that at one point the NBA considered the three-point line as one of the dumbest ideas they have ever heard of. But over time, players who were used to playing without the line slowly began to adjust to it. Michael Jordan is a perfect example of this. Jordan played college basketball at North Carolina without a three-point line. In his rookie season with the Chicago Bulls, he was 9 for 52 from three-point range. He never shot better than 20% from long range until his 5th season in the NBA. But by the time his career with the Bulls ended, he was consistently shooting better than 35% from three-point range. After the three-point line was first implemented, many people believed that a long-range shot would become one of the most exciting shots in the game and would create even more fun and competitiveness within the league, and it did. Now you're probably wondering where I'm going with all of this. Well, here's the thing. There has been a lot of talk around the association for quite some time now. The topic at hand is whether or not the NBA should introduce a 4-point line. Now I know that I already spoke about this topic a couple of months back, but that was when my channel was extremely cringy and I never looked into the matter seriously. Plus, the discussion of a 4-point line has once again recently resurfaced. The debate first gained attention back in 2014 when it was reported that NBA executives had discussed the possibility of adding a 4-point line and expanding the size of the court. At the time, a league spokesperson rejected the rumors of the discussion, saying that it wasn't anything serious. The current NBA 3-point line is 23 feet and 9 inches at the top and 22 feet in the corners. These margins have remained the same since the 1997 NBA season. However, now there is a good chance that all of that could change. Towards the end of 2016, NBA President of Basketball Operations Rod Thorne showed further interest in the topic of whether or not the NBA should design a new line. During an interview, Thorne was asked about the chances that a three-pointer, as ridiculous as it may seem, could be brought to the NBA at some point. Thorne replied by revealing that the topic of a 4-pointer has come up in league discussions time and time again. Thorne himself said, "Some of the players we have can shoot the ball from, I assume it would be 30 feet, 28 to 30 feet, somewhere in there. Some of the guys we have can shoot that as easily as a 23 to 24 foot shot. I remember when we had Vince Carter in New Jersey, he could shoot the ball from the seats and make half of them. Don't we want to see that? Players push to the limits of their abilities? And in my opinion, no, I'm not really looking forward to it." But apparently Thorne isn't the only one who feels this way. Many others around the league, including Damian Lillard, Bill Simmons, Phil Jackson, Byron Scott, and much more, are actually in support of adding a 4-point line. Phil Jackson voiced his opinion by saying, "Why not have a 4-point line about 35 feet out? It wouldn't be long before players will get reasonably comfortable shooting from out there, and having a 4-point line would certainly serve to enable teams to catch up in what are now blowout games." Phil Jackson believes that the league should adjust to the way the game is played in the generation it is played in. Since the Stephen Currys and Klay Thompsons of the NBA are making NBA 3-pointers a more commonplace, how long will it take until the game evolves along with them? Finally, NBA legend Larry Bird voiced his opinion on the matter by saying, "When I played, I never did practice 3-point shots, but these kids here, that's all they do. The game has changed, no question about it. Every 10, 12, 15 years, there's something new coming in. You put that 4-point line in there and people will start practicing. And once they start practicing, they get better at it. Maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, 4s are what everybody will be shooting. The game evolves." Despite the fact that Larry Bird does have some valid reasoning behind the idea, there are still others out there who feel the idea should not be implemented at all. Adam Silver has voiced his desire to not add a 4-point line, and I agree. disagree. As one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, Reggie Miller also had this to say: "It's comical. The league will be a laughingstock, and I will be in front of the line laughing the loudest. Why are we always trying to change and adjust the game? No one else has Curry's kind of range. Maybe Damian Lillard? Even Kyle Korver doesn't have this kind of range, and he's a great 3-point shooter. If there were 10 guys doing what Curry can do, then we could talk about it. But even then, it feels like it could become a pinball machine. Add a 4-point play, then a half-court shot. I just think a 4-pointer would be a gimmick." Reggie Miller believes that if a 4-pointer is introduced, then why not a 5 or a 6-pointer? Why not just ruin the game of basketball altogether? Reggie Miller also believes that the 3-point line itself has hurt the mid-range game, reducing basketball to just dunks, layups, and 3-pointers. If the 3 has put the mid-range game on life support, then the 4-pointer would end it altogether. Despite being one of the most proficient shooters in NBA history, leading the most productive outside shooting team of all time, and coaching the best deep shot maker in the game, Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr wants nothing to do with the concept of a 4-point line as well. Steve Kerr, who led the league twice in 3-point percentage and won the 1997 3-point contest, straight up rejected the possible idea of a 4-point line. He said, "Please, no, a 4-point line? No, I would not be a proponent of that. It sounds like a circus. You win a stuffed animal if you make a 4-pointer. I think that sounds insane, honestly." Reggie Miller and Steve Kerr, of course, were both outstanding 3-point shooters in their playing days. Steve Kerr still remains the NBA's all-time leader in 3-point shooting percentage at 45.4%, and Reggie Miller was another great long-distance shooter. If both of these players are declining the very thing they did for a living when they were playing, then they must be right. Plus, Steve Kerr is the coach of the player that this new line would actually benefit, so for him to shoot down the idea of a 4-point line just goes to show how ridiculous it seems. In my honest opinion, the game is not suffering without the 4-point line. Stephen Curry is already drilling shots from well beyond the NBA's 3-point line, so there's no need to add another line. A 4-point shot would give the world's deadliest perimeter threat yet another weapon in his arsenal. Adding a further line would only motivate the younger generations to focus on shooting further and cause them to ignore the other aspects surrounding basketball, such as mid-range jumpers, layups, floaters, and so on and so forth. Take LaMelo Ball for example. The younger brother of UCLA's Lonzo Ball broke onto the national scene this season after calling his shot from mid-court before letting it fly and hitting it. The 15-year-old prodigy is already taking deep shots in high school basketball, and although there is a lot of hype around the kid and he does indeed have talent, there are times where he without a doubt takes some extremely dumb shots. The reason behind this, in my opinion, is because people hype him so much when he makes that one deep shot and completely ignore the other 33 that he completely misses. The problem with this is that if he goes into the NBA, which he most likely will thanks to his dad's dumb yet smart tactics, and the NBA does implement this new line, chances are LaMelo will do exactly what he is doing right now. However, high school and professional basketball are completely different playing fields. All of these ridiculous shots might not be as well appreciated in the NBA as they are for him now, unless he somehow has an understanding coach like Steve Kerr is for Stephen Curry. The only way that LaMelo will be able to get away with shooting dumb shots like that in the NBA would be if his coach is LeVar Ball. Not only that, but a 4-point line might also ruin his focus when it comes to defense. LaMelo's defense is not the greatest as it is. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, his 92-point performance was mostly made possible because he simply did not play defense for portions of the game. The problem with this is that when it comes time to buckle up and play defense, this is exactly what will happen. The reason I use LaMelo as an example is because I feel like he is the ideal kid in today's basketball generation. He represents how a majority of today's youth play basketball. These are the same kids that look up to Stephen Curry. And I'm not gonna lie, at one point I was there as well. But here's the thing, if a 4-point line is actually introduced, the bad habits of shooting from far will spread to youth trying to be the next Curry. Both college and high schools will also start to consider this nonsense as well for their leagues. It would be a horrible addition to a league that has enough poor shooters as it is. The other day I asked my 5-year-old niece, who has close to no knowledge when it comes to NBA or basketball for that matter, who her favorite NBA player was. You know what she told me? You guessed it, Stephen Curry. I understand the fact that Stephen Curry and his outstanding shooting is the hot topic of the NBA right now. Every generation had one, from Michael Jordan in the early 90s to Kobe Bryant in the 2000s. My point is that people are struggling at the 3-point line as it is, so why bother adding another 4 to 10 feet behind the original 3 and call it a 4-point line? If players can't shoot the ball consistently from from the 3-point line that we currently have, a 4-point shot will only make matters worse as they jack up terrible shot attempts to boost their stats. Not to mention what it would do to clutch moments in games. While many people hate late game fouling and clock management situations, they add some excitement to the game. It means teams must make smarter late game decisions that would be taken away with this new line. When a team is down by 4 or 5 points late in the game, there's a lot of strategy at that point. If they can score, foul, and watch the opposition miss a couple of free throws, their offense still has a shot to pull off a big win. The opposition, on the other hand, still feels secure with the lead that they have earned throughout the course of the game. If a 4-point line is ever added, the team on the losing side of the scoreboard starts to feel hurried and make some poor decisions. If they're down by 4 points and they see that 4-point line, they immediately jack up a shot to try and tie it right then and there rather than making a quick basket to give their defense a chance. Once again, dumb decision. And sure, the NBA is a league that makes changes ever so often. As the game evolves, new rules are put into place. For example, the introduction of the 24-second shot clock in 1954, the widening of the lane from 12 to 16 feet in 1964, the 3-point line being established in 1979, the instant replay system being introduced in 2002, hand checking becoming a foul in 2004, and so on and so forth. But adding a 4-point line should not be a priority right now or at all for that matter. The NBA needs to do the smart thing and reject the idea of a 4-point line as nothing more than a crazy idea. This idea should not be acted upon in any way, especially at this point in time. However, the debate of whether or not a 4-point line should actually be introduced seems to come down to a question of how the league should balance an ever-evolving game while still upholding some core identity to its game. There's always going to be a portion of fans open to making changes within the game to adapt to the new era of shooters and desires of fans. Yet there's also going to be a portion of fans that dislike the idea of changing the game. Instead, they would prefer players to adjust their skills around how the game is currently played. The long-range shot is changing basketball at all levels, and it's one of the most exciting shots in the game. But let's be honest here, isn't the 3-point line enough? As always, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If I made any mistakes or missed anything that you felt should have been included, please let me know. Also, if you have any recommendations for future videos such as interesting stories or topics like this, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. As always, thanks for watching NBA Insider.